Welcome back to the Heichal Torah podcast. This is Rav Ez filling in for Yitzi and Nachum for a special episode. We are pausing our regularly scheduled podcast to bring to you a Q&A with Rav Ahron Lopiansky. 2 weeks ago, our juniors were in DC and we had the schus to set up a Q&A with Rav Ahron, and Rav Ahron addressed the various questions that the boys had. If any of these questions pique your interest, or if you just want to hear Rav Ahron addressing various issues, this is the episode for you. I hope you enjoy Rav Ahron's clarity and wisdom. Here is Rav Ahron Lopiansky. You'd like to subscribe to the item for submitting some questions for the Rosh Yeshiva? Is it better to lay low as Jews in America these days, or stand up for ourselves and show we're not afraid?
Oh, you guys really deal with tough questions. This is like, So let's talk about instincts, and let's talk about hashkafa. In other words, where the Torah is against connecting our instincts. I grew up a long time ago. I hate to say it. I hate to say I'm not an old man, but I'm older than most people here. And in my days, so television was not kosher, but westerns were kosher. There were no women. Those days, I don't know, there were no women on the west side of Mississippi, and it was all men drinking. That was the society. And they more or less followed a certain pattern. You sit and drink with somebody insults you, and a real man stands up and challenges the other person to shoot or be shot. That's the way a real man acts. And we grew up with that's the way you act. Midas Tovas are that you stand up for yourself, you're not a wimp, a guy insults you, you're willing to die and preferably to kill. That's basically the general klal. That type of attitude is so not Torahic. It's so primitive. The kind of I need to tell. We need to sit down and tell ourselves. First of all, we are guests in a country. Some of you, I assume, are hoping to make Aliyah at some point soon, and some people, Bez Hashem, when Shev Tzidkenu comes, and some people, whatever, we certainly need to feel a guest. If I don't like the way I'm treated by a host, I move on. And I recognize it, and I understand that, I'm not demanding as a partner, because I'm not a partner. I'm moving on. 2, getting primitive feelings off your chest, where you're going to lose on it some really tangible things, is primitive. And I hate to say it because we're brought up as Americans not like that. I ask myself, if I can keep a low profile and be able to get the things I really need and want under the radar screen, then it's a choice. Do I want the things, or do I want to feel good about myself? The hanhaga of staying under the radar screen and coldly figuring out what it is that we need, where do we need to work, it is so much easier. For instance, let's give an example. You have a politician. Politicians are extremely responsive to pressure, depending what the pressure is. So you can work quietly and assure them of votes, and you get some sort of law passed quietly that sort of roundabout gives you what you want. Versus making a big tumult in the newspaper and getting people annoyed at you, and then part of the constituent gets annoyed at you. Which is a better tactic? I'm not afraid. I'm going to write what I think. It's America free and free. So good. So you want this blowing off steam versus getting tachlis. It takes a cool mind. It's one of the reasons, al pi derech hateva, why we've been able to matzich against the Arabs, because they're hot-headed and like to talk and like to bluster. So we won and with this, we did this, with that and that. I remember during the 6-Day War, for 3 days, it was clear the Arabs were winning because the Israeli radio was mum, and the Arab channels couldn't say enough. They're in Yerushalayim, they're in Tel Aviv, they're here, they're there, everything. It was great. Understanding that talk and cheap feelings are counterproductive. And it's something that, again, it takes some thinking. What do we really want? And how do we go about it? That's a general answer, I guess, to that question.
Does the Yeshiva feel that advocacy has gone too far?
Again, I don't know. I sit in Silver Spring, not Washington, and I don't know. But the question is, again, we need to sort of pinpoint what is it that we want, what can we get, and so on. For instance, let's give an example. The universities. I'm very glad of what happened because it was able to show us a true face of the universities. I mean, we want to make places safe for Jews, that's true. Changing the attitude of the people there, I think, is a bracha v'atala. And the more you'll make noise about it, so of course they'll respond with another layer of vapor. And that's it. So understanding exactly what are goals, prioritize them, how do you achieve them? Usually the noise you make tends to be a lot more counterproductive. Occasionally not, but having a good feel and doing it very coolly and repressing the animal instincts of kind of not wanting to be, neb is very important.
How do we stay strong in our belief when there is a lot of bad happening to our people or ourselves?
So first of all, I think that we don't learn enough history. I mean, yes, things are bad. Do you have any idea where we've been through? How many people here have read books that describe in detail Tach v'Tat, Spain, on and on? There have been so many difficult kufis. When people say there's never been anything as difficult as such terrible matzav, so I hear the statement, there's never been such anti-Semitism in America. What are you talking about? When I grew up, Jews were either officially or unofficially not welcome anywhere. In Lakewood, in the early 1900s, Lakewood, the whole area of Lakewood, Jews were not allowed to enter. And President Wilson went there for a vacation. Once upon a time, Lakewood was thought to be a very healthy vacation area, serious. And he couldn't take his Jewish secretary of something or other because they weren't allowed and was understanding. So that's not anti-Semitism. Go to the Holocaust Museum and see the newspaper ads in the 30s in America. All the classified ads for jobs. Jews need not apply. Christians only. Christians only. Jews not need to apply. So when people talk about these things, it's because there's no sense of history. So yes, what we're going through is difficult. Do you have any idea what life was like in Europe typically for a Jew? My parents were Holocaust survivors. Forget about the Holocaust. What was life like for most Jews in Russia, Poland, Germany, Hungary, and so on and so forth? What was it like? You couldn't you couldn't become a doctor unless you converted. You couldn't own land. You couldn't do this. You couldn't do that. You couldn't do anything. And you would be every so often attacked by groupish Gotzim. So if we'd be able to say things more sensibly if we had an idea of history, we don't. How many people have read books that describe what life was like throughout and so on? So the humiliations, there's so much. And I don't know, people just make these statements. I wonder where you're coming from.
We are told to strive to be better. We are also told to be happy with who we are and where we are. These seem like conflicting messages. What should our mindset be?
So I think understanding that these two, Sameach Bechelko and Machavasi Balomi, are two very separate descriptions. And I want to explain why. I wake up one morning and I say, this is the amount of brains I have. These are the resources I have. These are the circumstances I'm born in. if I had more, I could do and be a lot more than I am. That Sameach B'Chelko is, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave each person the resources they need. The parents, the brains, the strength, the health, the wealth, the community, everything. Kadosh Baruch Hu set it up and said, this is what you have. Sameach B'Chelko means that I understand that the resources I have to accomplish are exactly what I need. Then the question is, you weren't born in this world to just sit back and say, I have. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to me so that I'd make something out of it. All of this, everything I have is potential. So pushing yourself to realize your potential is what you're expected to do. But being happy with what seems to be, what could you realize, that's called Sameach B'Chelko. So sticking to understanding every person is born 100% potential, like in physics, and it's converted to kinetic energy. It's potential energy, P, and converted to kinetic energy. The potential energy that we have and the maximum we can achieve, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said is perfect for me. But if I didn't achieve anything, then what was the point of my life?
What happens when I want to do more in my Yiddishkeit, but my parents tell me to calm down and be more normal? How do I navigate the situation?
Tell them it depends how you describe normal. So the truth is, a person should learn from what he hears. So maybe I'm going too fast. In other words, the problem is not the energy and direction and the cheshik. The problem is how quickly to accelerate. It's important to double check. It's important to work within the framework of what they feel is, you're part of a family, you're part of parents. Usually, if everything about you is consistent, for instance, if you talk about becoming a real Eved Hashem and you're pretty disrespectful to your parents, they see it as being jarring, the contrast. It's something that requires us to act in consort with them, but usually a parent sees consistent. If a parent sees that a child sits and learns very seriously every day for the extra hour, they'll be a lot more open for another hour than if it's just a lot of fire and flames and fighting and so on. So understanding it's meant to be a helpful process for us. If we're more consistent, if we expand our Avodas Hashem to Menschlichkeit, interacting well with them, then I think at the end of the day you come out much stronger, much better because of it.
How can I build healthy self-confidence in a way that does not lead to gaiva and in a way that's not superficial?
So I think going back to what we spoke about 2 or 3 questions ago, whatever I got, if I'm smart, I didn't do anything to earn those brains. They were given to me, and they could be taken away, chas v'shalom. So it's like, if I can give you a mashal, a friend of mine, this is a long time ago, his sister worked for Reichman Brothers, who are very wealthy people. They sent her uptown with a check to deposit in a bank. Those days they had checks, deposit in banks, and people know what it is, but so she was very curious to know how much it is. So she picked aside, don't forget, this was in the 70s, and it was $30 million check. Now, so he told me that she was scared to death. That's silly, because it's very hard to rob a $30 million check. What, you walk into the bank and say, "Could you give me $30 million in 20s?" What do you like? Who's going to walk in with it? But I had a different observation. Imagine we found that check in our pocket. Would you feel, wow, I'm a millionaire? How many people got $30 million in their pockets? The answer is, you're in a fool's paradise. It's not your $30 million, it's not your pocket. It's in your coat, it's in your jacket, but it's not your pocket. It's in Mr. Eichmann's pocket. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us stuff. And I need to ask myself, do I have what it takes to do this? If I do, it's not me. I'm taking something and using it. And if the if the person feels that way, then he doesn't take any credit. It's a Mishnah. It says al tarsik tovela in lamar taharbei tovela harbitar tarsik tovela atzmacha kilakach no tzarta. Different people are different. I had an acquaintance. He was a neighbor of mine. Had we been zeicha, he would have been the Galador in my mind. His name was Moshe Twersky, Hashem Yinkom Domo. He was killed about 10 years ago, approximately 8-9 years ago, in a terrorist attack on a shul. He was an incredible Gavi Rabbi. He knew Kol HaTorah Kula. He was Kula Shakur in learning. His tzidkis was off the charts, and his anova was incredible. I knew him as a neighbor, and his brother Chaim Tov Ruchim Shemer Twersky in Yeshiva University. He was an incredible person, Moshe. He was as brilliant as a Goyen as was. He was an Anav, and as big as a Goyen Anav, he was a bedaktik with mitzvahs. So Sukkot morning, he went to the best lulav at Esther Yerushalayim was by somebody that has a Torah of Berlin. So Sukkot morning, 3:30 in the morning, got up, took his son, he went to the mikveh. He walked about an hour to his Torah, and he had problems with his back and this and that. He walked it, davened long, took the lulav and esrog, and then walked back home with his son. They walked by people, I guess it must have been like 10 o'clock, who were kind of coming to Shachris, were going to Shachris. And his son looked at them with sort of an attitude of, we got up 3:30 in the morning and walked 2 hours, and these people are like at 10 o'clock there. His father picked it up and he told his son, we do what we're supposed to do, they do what they're supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm not better, not worse. Whatever, I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. Each person has their own thing they're supposed to do. I don't think he thought they're supposed to get up at 10:30, but Al Kapanim, the idea that what I did is special, unique, if I have those abilities, then that's my minimal. So understanding everything we have is a gift, not a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's an escrow from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's there so that we can use it and make something out of ourselves and bring it to completion.
How does a Jew properly balance interacting with the world and being separate from the Goyim and their culture? Also, if done properly, is there inherent value in interacting with the outside world, or is it only b'diavad?
So as far as the second one goes, there are a lot of different approaches, and the different shittas in Yiddishkeit, from a total isolation to total integration and everything in between. Each Rebbe, each Yeshiva, each Derech has its mahalach. But the understanding that the Torah is full of being affected by Goyim, even at Israel. The Rambam in Hilchos Deis explains how we're affected. We absorb a lot from the Umas Ha'olam. Not from Muslim. He speaks about the society we live in. If we're honest with ourselves, we can't be ourselves if we leave ourselves open to other people's understanding of what's right and what's wrong. On the other hand, the world contains many tools. So language, expression, sciences, and so on are things that we have and we can make use. The trick is when we read something, can we extract what we need to do well and not be affected by what the person thinks? It's tricky. And like I said, different shittas. Presenting ourselves, if a person in business interacts with a Jew, if a person in a hospital, a doctor's interact with a from doctor. So you don't have to be like the other people, but you have to express values that are universal. Respect for the other, consideration. Imagine you look different. You have a beard, you have payas, you're working together with other people, they think you're weird. But as time goes on, you never, ever speak about anybody else bad. You promise something, you deliver. You're humble. You don't toot your own horn, and something like that. That creates a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. People say, I don't know what it is, but these people are unique. And therefore, being able to, so when however one engages, one needs to have, it's like a membrane that lets in things one way. You don't absorb ideas, values, etc. from the world around. You absorb things, you take in things that are tools that can be used for Hashem, and you exude kavod, emes, righteousness, and so on. That's a real Kiddush Hashem. To do it precisely right is excruciatingly difficult, but that's the parameters for it.
Our final two questions for the Rosh Yeshiva. What should I do if someone that I love is sick? They don't fill me in on what's going on, and they don't want me davening or doing things in their schus. What can I do?
So people are sensitive, and part of recognizing is if a person is not well, he may not want to share it. Doing a chesed for somebody means that the person has to want it the way you do it. There's an old story when I was growing up there. Again, they had Boy Scouts, I don't know if they still have it today, where part of what you had to do was you had to, every so often they would have like good deeds or something like that. So there was a scout troop, and the head of the scout troop, it was a time to do good deeds. So he asked the first boy, what did you do? He said, he helped an old lady cross the street, and over here and there. So, oh, that's very, very nice. The second one also helped the old lady. The third one, 50 kids all helped the old lady cross the street. He said, it's amazing, why do you need 50 kids to cross one old lady's street? Because you didn't want to cross it. So if a person doesn't want the chesed from you, it's not a chesed. You can respect it. You're allowed to daven even if the person quote unquote doesn't want you. You can daven by yourself, help the person in whatever way the person needs Yeshua or whatever it is, help him. That you can do. You don't need rishus for that. But the pride, the name, the mother's name, anything more than that, it might make the person feel worse. So understanding what is the chesed for the person is very much part of doing the chesed.
Final question for the Rosh Yeshiva. What advice would the Rosh Yeshiva give us moving forward? What should our goal be over our last year of high school and going into our yeshiva years in Israel? What should our goal be, and what advice would you give us to get there?
Well, that's what you guys get paid for. So I guess let's. It's obviously it's the question for us. First of all, to understand that as distant as the goals might seem to be, what we're really trying to do is develop ourselves, become who we are. I would tell you to do a simple exercise. Baruch Hashem, Heichal has put out a lot of very fine Talmidim, gone out Yisrael, become Bnei Torah, and so on. Speak to somebody 4 years down the line. Look at him. Does he look like a happy person? Yes, you may not have been able to imagine yourself sitting and learning 3 storm a day and doing everything you're supposed to do. And right now, you would feel that you'd be very unhappy to do it. But look at people who are developing Torah. They really are happy people. There's a sense of my real self has come out, and that's what I've done. So the first thing is, it may be very hard, but the end goal is not olam haba, it's olam hazeh. It's who we really are, and a person feels I can make things happen, and my life is meaningful, and I'm going to someplace. I want to share something. There was somebody, I don't remember if it was Oklahoma or Arkansas, it doesn't make much of a difference, who was put to death a few weeks ago for murder or something or other. So he had a chaplain work with him. The problem was that this person was an atheist. But you have to supply, so they had an atheist chaplain working with him. Yes, it's hard. You have a deeper cup than to understand. But the point was that they wrestled with the question, can life have any meaning for an atheist? It was an article in the New York Times. There was no clear teretz. They were able to say that they focused a lot about the last meal, the chicken, boiled chicken, this chicken. That was a big part of it. But understand that a life that's easy come, it's easy go, it has no meaning. If a person who wakes up one day and says to himself, I didn't do all that much that's meaningful, that's a saddest day for a person. If a person works, sweats, rolls up his sleeves and works, then you wake up and you say, it's hard, but every moment has meaning. And as time goes on, it's more and more satisfying. That's something to keep in mind. And if it's something that you don't have to work hard at, it's probably not worth it. The things that you have to work hard for are the things that are really meaningful. Becoming a Ben Torah, becoming somebody who is a person that brings out the Tzalmud himself, is probably the most invigorating feeling that a person has. The fact that it takes work and effort, it's not despite that, it's because of that. So understanding that where you're headed to is to realize yourself, to become a person that you will find life, no matter how difficult, it will be always satisfying and meaningful, and knowing that it takes work and consistency. Perhaps the one midah work more when you're young, you want to be mislahev and do things, suddenly things that you do consistently become part of you and they're real. Bez Hashem, a lot of atzlacha. It's very nice meeting everybody. And everyone should grow into the Ben Torah that they're supposed to become, Bez Hashem.